Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for part two of my limited series called Getting My Greek On with Hellenic Oracle. It has been a hot minute since I did the initial video, but what can I say? Life happens. But I am excited to be doing this second video. Of course, I will leave a link to that first video in the description box below. And essentially, this is just an informal, kind of limited collection of videos that I plan to do where I am just kind of refamiliarizing myself with Greek mythology. That has been one of my intentions for this year, and I have been doing that with the help of the Hellenic Oracle by Thea over at Garden Goddess Tarot. So I will leave a link for the NPC shop where you can find her deck if you are interested in Greek mythology and oracle decks. And yeah, I have been having just a lot of fun reacquainting myself with myths that have been familiar to me, and then also new ones that have been unfamiliar to me. And in this video, I wanted to focus on a myth that I feel is fairly well known. It's one of the more common ones, and that is the myth of Echo and Narcissus. And this has been one of my favorite myths from when I first read it as a kid. And the reason I wanted to chat about it is because initially I thought, okay, well, I know what these cards are going to mean when I pull them, depending on the context of the reading I'm giving myself, etc. But as I was kind of doing my study and just reading different interpretations of this myth, I found that the meanings I have been then giving these two figures have been different than what I would have anticipated or expected. Some of them, not all of them, but certainly it has helped to kind of broaden the different interpretations that I could glean from these two cards. So the image of Narcissus here is from a John William Waterhouse painting that is called Echo and Narcissus. This is one of my favorite paintings. John William Waterhouse is just basically one of my favorite artists. So I have this painting in one of my rooms. And this painting is of Echo, and it is by Alexandre Cabanel, I think, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. But in any case, I do understand why this particular image was chosen over the image found in the John William Waterhouse. I think that this is just kind of more illustrative of Echo in terms of, her posture, her mouth open to speak, her hands cupping her ears, and just kind of in the stony mountains, where echoes are reverberated. So I think that was an excellent choice. So for anybody who isn't quite familiar with the myth of Echo and Narcissus, you can easily Google it. Basically, you have Narcissus, and he is the son of a river god and a fountain nymph, and he's super hot. That's what he's known for. He's super hot, and so everywhere and anywhere he goes, all matters of creature and humans and whatever, they're all fawning over him, pining after him, and essentially are just all up in his grill. And then you have Echo, who is a mountain nymph, and she is known for her beauty and also known for being very chatty, having a beautiful voice, having a beautiful talking voice and singing voice, and she uses it to her advantage. Some myths will say that she's a little too loquacious, and others will say that, people loved to hear her speak and she was very good at it, etc. And so how these two characters intersect is that you've got Zeus, doing what he does, hanging out with other nymphs, and Hera, his ever jealous wife, is trying to catch him in the act. So Echo, upon Hera's arrival, distracts Hera by engaging her in conversation. Some interpretations of the story will say that Zeus ordered her to do this, and others will say that she took it upon herself to help Zeus and the nymphs get away without being caught. Either way, Hera caught on, got pissed off, and punished Echo by cursing her with the ability to only speak the final words of the person speaking to her. So enter Narcissus. Of course, when Echo lays her eyes on the beautiful Narcissus, she falls madly in love, but she can only echo the final words of whatever statements he makes, questions he asks. And of course, as he does with everybody else, he rejects her. She runs off. She entreats the help of Aphrodite to end her pain and suffering. And so Aphrodite grants her the mercy of freeing her from her physical body so that, just her beautiful voice remains that of an echo, right? And that's how the whole origin of the echo is explained. Now, Narcissus, he also becomes subject to a curse because one of the many, many people he's rejected, I think his name is Amenius. This youth was pining after Narcissus, and he was rejected, and so he called upon the goddess Nemesis to avenge him, and which Nemesis, granted his plea. And at some point, Narcissus receives a knock on the door, and he opens the door to see Amenius has taken his own life. Basically, the curse that Nemesis places on Narcissus is that he falls in love with his own reflection. So Narcissus falls in love with his own image, and he cannot bear to leave the pool in which he sees his own image, and essentially wastes away. And in place of where he used to lie, daffodils have sprung, the first daffodils, and that is the origin story of that flower. And what was interesting and new to me about this story is that initially, when I was much younger, I had always sided with Echo and felt nothing but pity for Echo, and thought that it was just such a tragic story for her, and Narcissist was just such a dick. And that has changed for me a little bit. I mean, not saying that Echo necessarily deserved as bad as she got, but her mouth got her into trouble. And then on the other hand, with Narcissus, especially after reading Stephen Fry's Mythos, I felt more sympathy for Narcissus because he is not necessarily painted as just an asshole who's just so vain and full of himself and conceited from birth. In Stephen Fry's interpretation, he does show kindness in terms of trying to, gently let down Amenius and just trying to handle all the attention that he gets from these fawning, pining beings who just fall in love with him. And they don't respect his boundaries. They don't respect his kind rejections. And I can imagine how that would get very exhausting. That would turn one into a very cranky person. So I felt a little bit more sympathetic toward his character. So if I were to pull Echo in one of my readings, of course I could go with some of the more maybe obvious on the nose interpretations of like a repetition of something, a reverberation of something, you know, a hint, a trace. But in light of recent kind of study, I have definitely felt a kind of Seven of Swords vibe with Echo. In terms of Seven of Swords for me being how to use words and communication strategically. Seven of Swords is not, for me, an innately shadowy card. It is one about being strategic when you have to be, being cunning when you have to be. Another possible interpretation that I could take from pulling Echo is knowing what to say and when to say it. You know, really engaging in that Seven of Swords energy smartly. So knowing what to say, knowing how I'm going to impart that, and also knowing when to put a gag in it, right? And then for Narcissus, I would say that, of course, we could go with, once again, the on-the-nose interpretation of like vanity and conceit and being complete, you know, narcissist. That's where we get that psychological term now, whether it be our own indulging in that kind of psychology or whether it's people that we know that we have kind of identified with narcissistic tendencies or behaviors. Also, you know, I can see this as like, okay, you know, because Narcissus really was just so influenced, I mean, and so affected by the external stimuli around him, you know, coming at him from all angles of people just pining for him and longing for him, and again, not respecting his boundaries, not taking no for an answer. Again, thinking about how outside influences can affect us, right? The external environment. How does that affect how we perceive ourselves? And you know, am I forced into being a bitch because people are not respecting my boundaries? Is that the case? Or, you know, am I just being a bitch because I'm having a bad day? I'm very self-absorbed at this point. You know, I'm not seeing things clearly. And then finally, another kind of more gentle interpretation I could also give to the card of Narcissus is to lean into vanity a little bit, you know, lean into that kind of self-love. It's not a bad idea to, you know, get dressed up a little bit. I'm going out to dinner with friends, you know, remember when I used to do that pre-pandemic? Remember, Julie, you used to like actually brush your hair and put on something that didn't consist of, you know, a fleece or sweatpants. So that's just another kind of more fun, lighthearted interpretation. So anyway, I have just been really enjoying getting my Greek on because I have found that after all this time, I have gathered new ways of looking at the story and these two characters. So let me know, what are your thoughts about Echo and Narcissus? Do you have the Hellenic Oracle? Have you been doing your own Greek mythology study, whether it be with the deck or without? Do share some knowledge and some further insight if you have any. Feel free to drop those in the comments below. And until the next time, much love and take care.